I have an expression. We're not physicians, but we save lives.
Life gets more difficult when you're in your 90s, and it requires more outside. It's more difficult.
Keeping people safe and improving their quality of life, no matter where they are in the disease process. I tell families we figuratively and literally look between their toes. So we're literally, not literally, but pulling this person apart from top to bottom, inside out, to really get a sense of who they are, what's going on with them in all these categories. I don't know what you don't know. We're not dealing with boxes of chocolate. We're dealing with human lives. We're not.
Welcome to the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. I'm Larry Wagner, and I've spent 30 years working with seniors, where I was a certified senior advisor, and the last 15 years in the home buying industry as a certified senior transition specialist, where I specialize in dealing with seniors going through a transition in their lives. This podcast is for seniors, those with seniors they love, and people who work in the senior community. In each episode, we bring on a guest who works to improve the lives of seniors. This podcast is your key to unlocking senior resources. Welcome. Today we're here with Shari Geller from Boca Raton, Florida. Shari, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be
Very
here.
nice to have you. So this is our first remote podcast. We haven't done this before, so we're getting with the program. We usually interview people only from New York, since this podcast really appeals to those from New York. But listen, in about 5 minutes, you'll see the connection. Florida and New York, not such a strange connection, but it'll even get stronger. But Shari, you deal in the senior community with your company, Senior Options. How did you get involved working with the senior community?
So my sister got into this space in New York, and as you can tell from my speech, I'm also a New Yorker.
Really? I didn't know. Yeah.
Down here. Yes, I know, really. I'm down here, oh my God, 36, 37 years. But anyway, so I'm going to die with this accent, clearly. But so my sister got into this space in New York, and she would tell me stories, and I would ask her what happened. Anyway, bottom line is, by 13, I didn't have grandparents, so I didn't even know who this older cohort was. And after telling me these incredible stories, how she helped these older adults, I went back to school at 48 for my master's of social work. 6 years into it, working with her, went on my own, and we just celebrated our 15th anniversary.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. So let's explain what Senior Options actually is.
Okay. Senior Options is a concierge care management company. So people call me and they say, so can you get me an aide? Yes, I could get you an aide, but we manage people's care. So that includes caregivers, but that's, I don't want to say it's a small part of it because it's not, but typically people call us because their loved ones are failing. So they could be cognitively, physically, and or emotionally failing. It could be fractured hips. It could be new diagnoses of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer, all the things that come with aging, not necessarily, but sometimes. And so we step in as professionals. We assess, identify the issues, and then create a plan. And so the plan will state, keep Mrs. Smith safe, and here are resources, options, and solutions in doing so, which could be hiring a caregiver. Right. So again, we're managing the person's care, but it's concierge in the sense that we're looking at every piece of their life.
But I assume a lot of it depends on, being that you're in Florida, a lot of seniors whom you deal with are, well, your seniors are in Florida, but a lot of seniors from New York are in Florida, which means they left family behind, their children behind in New York. So that's a big Exactly. New York, Florida connection. Or those in New York are going down to Florida and going to need care. So this New York, Florida thing has been a connection for probably all eternity, right. Since all us Long Islanders started moving out to Florida when we retire. It's like a birthright.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So typically, mom and dad moved down, 60s, 70s, living life, came here to play golf, go to Meisner, go to the restaurants, enjoy as they did, but now fast forward the clock. Children are still living in New York, right? Mom and dad are here 25, 30 years. They're not doing well. And so they find us, and that's where they hopefully will bring us in.
Yes, I have my folks with 10 minutes away. My in-laws are 10 minutes away. It makes life so much easier. We're much more hands-on than we could be if they were in Florida. I know my brother-in-law, his parents were in Florida, and he would fly back and forth. He couldn't see them near as often, obviously. We go daily, so every other day. But he had to have someone down there dealing with the big picture. He can only dealing with the nuance. I mean, he only dealt with the big picture. They dealt with the day-to-day. And he needed somebody like you, and he didn't have anybody like you, which made it very difficult.
So, right, we tell people wear your boots on the
Right.
ground and wear your professional
Right.
boots. Like a daughter once called me and she said, "Oh, you're like the daughter?" I'm like, "No, we want you to be the daughter. We're the
Right.
professional. This is our wheelhouse. This is our space." So I explain to families who call me, you need legal documents, you go to an
Right.
attorney. You have issues with your heart, you go to a cardiologist. People come to us when they're loved ones, and we get calls on siblings, on parents, on grandparents, on uncles, on friends. So it doesn't matter who, it's just somebody they care about who is not aging successfully.
Eh,
We're all aging. You and I
Right.
are aging as we're doing this
I had my
podcast,
birthday two
right?
days ago, so I aged
But
2 days ago. But I won't age again for another
oh, happy birthday.
363 days left. So, yeah,
Lucky
there you go.
you. I tell my husband today we're the best we are
That's
today,
right. Correct.
right? So, but I could tell my son works with me also, and he says, "Mom, you should write a book." I said, "Nobody's going to want to read these stories." And then I think about the stories, and I'm going to share some, and I'm like, maybe I will write a book because I tell my team, think about how we got this client and where they are now. So we have a client who was in the ICU. The son literally flew down, hired us, mother's in ICU, not doing well. 3 months later, she has a caregiver, she's going out for lunch with her friends, she's living her life the best she can. And did we do that? I have an expression. We're not physicians, but we save lives. So because the son isn't here, right, and he couldn't be here, we are his trusted professional advocates who have a skill set, right? So we're advocating, we know what to ask and who to ask. We're following up and holding people accountable. So when Susie Q is calling from New York to get information at a doctor's office or at a hospital, very difficult.
Yes.
We're on the ground, we have relationships, and if we have to, we've driven over to doctor's offices and gotten the reports.
Okay.
So that's where, the advocacy, the professionalism, the care management comes in.
You use the word you're their advocate. I've said so many times in this podcast that somebody without an advocate they're dead in the water. Someone who needs care, a senior without an advocate, and you think of people who have no children, no siblings, and whatnot, and they're alone. They're relying on nieces and nephews who they don't have a great relationship. They have not a close relationship with. They're in trouble. You really need an advocate, and that's the role you play. Even to have someone who would want to do it, geographically they're not appropriate. So
Right. You're spot
yeah,
on because Larry, I also say when people call me, again, typically from New York, but it could be California, Oregon, we have clients' children who live in the Middle East. But I said, if you don't want to bring us in, I don't know if it's a granddaughter, an uncle, a friend, a neighbor, somebody has to be there. They have to know these communities, these doctors' offices, hospital. They need to know somebody is asking the questions, following up, and holding them accountable for the care because the system's a little broken, or maybe
yeah.
more than a
I was
little,
just going to
right?
say
And
that.
so
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Everybody needs an
Yeah.
advocate.
That's huge. That's huge. So yeah, the stories are numerous. You've been doing this for 15 years. Stories are numerous in your business because I don't want to say every client's a story, but many clients are a story. And
Every client
every
is a
client, okay, I
story.
stand corrected. Every client's a story. And I just know with my own family. I know my own family, the stories I can tell just from the two parents and the two in-laws, the four seniors who live to be in their 90s. Life gets more difficult when you're in your 90s and it requires more outside intervention. And that's what we're dealing with now. My father was going to turn 98. So they say God bless them, but turning 98 doesn't come without its service, without its problems. So
Right.
so we need someone to tend to these issues, and they can't do it themselves. They can't do it themselves. What I say is that life gets more complicated at a time where our brain becomes more simple. And it'd be nice if life was most complicated when we're 50. We're the sharpest. I'm not sure that's the right decade, but conceptually, you know what I'm talking about. But as you start reaching diminished capacity, they came up with the required minimum distributions for your IRA. It used to be incredibly complicated. Which formula you wanted to use, now there's only one. And it was a lifetime decision. But these people, they're 7 years old. They don't know what lifetime decision to make. Or applying for Medicare. So ridiculous. And again, that doesn't happen till you're 65, and they make it complicated. So just life is complicated. Even when the government doesn't make it complicated, life makes it complicated. Your body makes it complicated. So you decomplicate.
And right. And Larry, the truth is, I always say that most of my training, I'm having a senior
Oh,
moment
there you go.
myself. What did I
And we're
want to
going to hire
say?
you. Go
Oh,
ahead. There you go. But you'll have a
oh
good care.
my
You have
God.
someone good to take care of you. Go ahead.
I say sometimes I think I need an
Yeah.
assessment. You know
Yes.
what? Everybody has a lot on their
Yeah.
heads. And it's not good. And I have I have a team of 9 care
Oh,
managers,
wow.
social workers, and nurses, and one of them is very big into all this research, and she says it's not good to
Right.
multitask, right? Very bad. And how do we get through our day
Right.
without it, right? And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it'll come back to me, I hope.
No.
You were bringing up some points. First of all, we are living
Yes.
longer. That's for
Yes.
sure. And the second point is this is what I was thinking. You don't know what you don't know. So I had a daughter once call me, not
Right.
my daughter, because I don't
A
have
daughter. Right.
daughter-in-laws, but a
Right.
daughter of a client. And she, like in tears, crying, she goes, Shari, I didn't know. I said, why would you
Yep.
know? This is not your space. This is not, my son told me years ago, you have to go, Mom, you have to do speaking engagements. And I'm like, what am I going to talk about? He goes, Mom, God should be my
Yeah.
witness. Mom, you know so much. And I said, quote unquote, what do I know? Because what I know, I thought was basic
Right.
knowledge. It's
Yeah.
not. And again, I'm in this space for over 20 years. Somebody who has a mother who's 88 with a new diagnosis of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or whatever, they're at a loss, as they should be. The point is, where are you going to go to get help and recommendations and solutions and good
Right.
options to the problem?
Absolutely. I deal with people. This podcast is called Unlocking Senior Resources, where I interview people from all different providers of services for seniors. And it's so common to say what you just said. I've been in this space for X number of years. It's the first time someone's burying a family member, right? It's the first time someone's doing estate planning. It's the first time someone's dealing with diagnosis for mom or dad. It's always a first time, right? It's always a first time, and that's a common reoccurring theme. And people are upset that they're not more knowledgeable about this first time. But they know things you don't know, Shari. They don't know things I don't know, but they don't know this thing because that's what you know, and I know things I know. And that's why, and the phrase I use in this podcast constantly is I am, as are my guests, a walking Rolodex. I'm preaching to the right age people. If my son were listening, he'd say, "What's a Rolodex?" But he'd look at,
Right.
oh, you mean the in your phone the contacts? Yeah. So anyway, but that's what we are. We provide services because we know the right people. Now the right people may be on your staff, or the right people may be the people you know who you can call in, and you don't have an attorney, you don't have an estate attorney on your staff, I imagine, but
No, but
but you know the proper
we
estate
have
attorneys.
plenty that we work with.
Exactly. So
Exactly.
that's what we do as well. And I now need a state attorney for a family member, and I have a whole cache of them in my Rolodex, which I literally don't have a Rolodex, although I used to. But I have a whole cache of them, and I know which one I go to pick for my family member, and so on. So that's what we do, and we do it for our families, the same things that we do for our clients. So it really is very important. So question. So what, as far as detail goes, you talk about if you were sort of rattling off and repeating again what kind of services you provide.
Right. Okay, so I would say the first and most important thing is our comprehensive
Yes.
assessment, because that's the investigative
Yep.
tool. A daughter calls up and says, my mother has this new diagnosis, or she's been hospitalized 3 times in the last 6 weeks. We don't know what's going on. I'm in New York. I came down. I had to get back to work. Or, I say life gets in the
Right.
way. And that's why people bring us in, because they can't be here and they don't know who to go to. And they might know they need an elder law attorney. We'll open up elder law attorneys. There's
Right.
hundreds,
Yep.
right? So people come to us. And again, I say to people, I don't want to say trust me because you don't know me. So why would you
Right.
trust me? But we're going to show value. And in the end of the day, the trust will be there. But I don't expect it on day one. Anyway, so we start with this
I want to
comprehensive
stop there for
assessment.
one
We're
second, Shari.
looking
Let
at,
me stop there for 1 second. Are you meeting the people
sure.
at the beginning, or someone on your staff meeting the people?
So typically it's my care
Okay.
managers. If I'm available, I try to,
Okay.
because I always like to meet them
Right.
once, because my name is on every
Yep.
client, right? So I'm managing my team
Right.
at this point. So yeah, I know what's going on with everybody. I'm reading notes,
Right.
I'm
I would.
doing supervision, all
Yep.
that.
With 9 people, I'd expect that answer. And I've now that goes to my next question. Before you go on, I apologize. And that
It's
you say,
okay.
why would people trust me? They don't know me or my care manager. At the end of the session, people oftentimes say that they trust them, because I get that a lot.
After the first
Yes.
session,
Because
um,
I don't
well,
do
again,
assessments,
if
but yeah.
right, well, when you bring value to
Yes.
somebody and you make things better for them and help them, they're starting to
Right.
trust you, right? Because you're showing care and you made something better for them with just doing
Yes.
it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I don't know if that's
No, I had a phone
so
call the other day, and someone called. I'm a house buyer. I buy a house here in New York, on Long Island and surrounding areas. And someone called me, said, I said, I'm Larry. Can I help you? He says, yes, Larry. I've been calling all these people who claim to buy houses for cash, and they all seem like shysters. I don't trust any of them. That's the opening salvo in this phone call. About 10 minutes later, he goes, Larry, I don't know what it is about you, but I trust you. Within 10 minutes, just a phone call that he initiated to me. And I find
right.
people in the senior business, because most of my clients are seniors, which is why I decided to put this podcast together. Well, my son decided to put this podcast together. But I find seniors want to work with people they trust, and they're oftentimes easy to give their trust if they think you're genuine. And I think that's critical, and that's why I ask.
Genuine. I agree. You have to be genuine, and you can't fake that. I don't
You
think you can
can't.
fake that.
Well, I guess you got to be really good at it
Right.
anyway.
Maybe you can. Maybe you
I
can.
can't. Yes.
But
Yeah.
right, I
Yeah.
can't either. I'm a open
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
So anyway, so to circle back
Yes.
to my assessment, so we're looking at cognition, physical functioning, safety, medications, socialization, emotional well-being, spirituality. Who is this person? What makes a good day for them? How do we get there? And can we get there? So we will literally, not the first visit, the second visit, ask them to take off their sock, because guess what? There could be an ulcer on the bottom of their foot, or we've seen 6-inch toenails. Typically doesn't happen, but we have had it. So I tell families, we figuratively and literally look between their toes. So we're literally, not literally, but pulling this person apart from top to bottom, inside
Right.
out, to really get a sense of who they are, what's going on with them in all these categories. They could be isolated. They're depressed because they're not
Yep.
going out. They don't feel well. What's going on? They could have a urinary tract infection. Sometimes they're low on B12, but who knows? I'm 85 years old. I'm not feeling well. I go to the doctor with my caregiver. Who's,
Yep.
the doctor asks for the meds. They go, Doc, it's the meds that we talked about last time. No, it's not, because another doctor prescribed the medication that he's taking and another doctor discontinued one. So that's where the oversight, the care coordination, connecting all the
Right.
dots, right? Making sure this doctor knows that these labs came in, and did you know about that blood pressure because you prescribed that medication? Like, and again, you can't put it on this. It doesn't matter. We have clients who are 60 and we have clients who are
Oh
104.
wow.
So with every kind of, situation, whether it's emotional, physical, cognitive decline, but we have a case now where the woman, we had to take the car away. which is another
Yeah.
service we do, which I'll get into hopefully in a few minutes. But we took the car away because she wasn't a safe driver. And she, which is rare, she agreed easily, here are the keys, take away the car, which we took care of. But she kept going into the garage. So she has mild cognitive impairment. And she kept going in the garage, and she would get a little agitated. Where's her car? She wanted to drive. We created a room in there. We got outdoor
Huh.
furniture with decals of plants. And so it looks like outside with music and just a place for her to read, another place. So now she comes in and she says to the caregiver, she goes, let's hang out in my new room, totally change. And it was my care manager's idea, thinking out of the
Yeah.
box. Who would think? I wouldn't even think to do that, right? So it's really, again, it's whether you consider that a big thing, a
That's
small thing, but it
huge.
changed. Right. It changed her for the better. We're all about keeping people
Yep.
safe and improving their quality of life, no matter where they are in the disease process. I had a client for literally 10 years,
But I
started
just
out
want
with
to
a
make a
couple. They were
comment on
in,
that because I want this to be said.
sure.
If those, because maybe this will come up somewhere on social media, because you have to think that way today, even though I don't ever go on it. And that is, if you have a parent who needs to give up their keys, you have to listen to this because that was really very, very clever. I've had four
It's
parents and
brilliant.
in-laws, and
It's
all of them gave up the keys on their own. So I was very fortunate because
amazing.
that's amazing.
That's very rare.
Statistically unsound,
Yep.
but absolutely, but I was very fortunate. But anyway, but I just
Yeah,
wanted to
you are
put
very
that in there.
lucky.
That was an awesome way of handling it. I've never heard that.
Right. So that's
Yep.
why,
Yeah.
right. So we really, and again, I think it's the collaboration of my team, because when I started on my own, it was me, myself, and
Yeah.
I, and that's who I was talking to, right? When I had these clients. Now I have 9 people with different backgrounds, social workers, nurses. The backgrounds are really incredible. Their skills are incredible. They all could stand alone very well. But when we have our team meetings and we're discussing our clients, the conversations and the energy in that room, it's like I said to them, I feel like we're going to explode because what about this? What about that? They're all so engaged and wanting to help our clients and each other so that this person is successful. So our goal is to give each of our clients every
Right.
opportunity to be successful. And what does that look like? That looks like once you do that assessment and create the plan, so now we've identified all the issues, right? Memory issues, have to take the car away, need a caregiver, a companion, change this doctor or need a doctor. Sometimes they want a concierge doctor, sometimes a doctor
Yeah.
retired. So we help with all that. But then it's for that particular client, what does that plan look like? And what are the recommendations, the options, and solutions for that person? So each of our clients, we start with a blank piece of paper.
Right. That's the way to do it.
And so,
Everyone's different.
right, because you know what? I think it's on my website. We're not dealing with boxes of chocolate. We're dealing with human lives. And so we work very quickly. My team knows, because to me, time is of the essence. This person is not feeling well. This person is depressed. This person, just got a diagnosis. We have to say, here's what we're going to do. Do you know that there is now, I'm doing this 20 years, as I said, clients were on Namenda, Aricept for memory. And I remember going to a conference and a doctor from Harvard said, if you think this is what they are with it, could you imagine them without it,
Yeah.
meaning these
Yeah.
medications? It really didn't do much, to be honest with you, but people, we tried. It was feeling, giving them hope. Anyway, they're now infusions that we have seen on drastic changes in our clients. It's not for everybody, but again, these are things that daughters call me and oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, again, it's okay. That's why you have
Right.
us, right? We're here to share this knowledge and educate you. And some families are like, I don't want it because there are side effects. I mean, one of my colleagues was telling me one of her clients died from
Oh,
it.
wow. That's a big side
Because you could
effect.
get, yeah, yes, a very big. So again, do you want to take it? And they do scans constantly, but things could happen. We've had very good success with these with some of our clients. Again, I'm not the one. We don't just make the decisions. We're here to provide options, solutions, educate the
Yep.
family, explaining the good, bad, and ugly about here. Mom's depressed. here are 5 things we want to do. Let's talk it out. And the family will say, I like this. That's never happening, and get that done tomorrow. And the other we'll put on the back burner.
Hi, I'm Larry.
And I'm Ben. We're the father and son team of Leave the Key Home Buyers, and we want to buy your house.
We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you were going through.
So if you're considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out and see how we can help.
Do you have an outdated home?
No need to update anything.
Have a home that needs repairs?
Don't bother with repairs.
Don't want to take everything with you?
Leave whatever you want behind.
Dreading the headaches that come with agents?
Sell your home without paying a commission.
Dreading prying neighbors attending open houses and passing judgment on your home?
No need for public showings.
When you sell to us, you'll have all the certainty of closing on your timeline, not someone else's, and there's absolutely no pressure.
Visit leavethekey.com or call us today for a no-obligation offer at 631-388-7771 if you want to sell your home today.
Interesting. So I have a question. If someone has to move to a facility, so if someone is going to be flying down for a weekend because they want to go to facilities that you're recommending, and they're going to go
Right.
tour some facilities, what things should they be looking for on this weekend trip? You know, they need to get as much done as possible in a short amount of time.
So it's good that they're going on the weekend, because the weekend is the worst in hospital settings, communities, because it's bare minimum on staff, right? So
Interesting.
you don't want to really go the best time. You want to go the worst
Makes
time.
sense. I never
Right?
thought
I
of
mean, you
that.
should do both.
I'm just thinking people are
Right,
working.
you should do
Yeah.
both.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. You should do
Yep.
both. But going on the weekend, you're really going to get a sense of, well, tell everybody, talk to the residents or talk to a family member who's visiting, because they're going to tell you, tell me what does your mother love about it? The
Yeah.
food. Well,
Yeah.
my father doesn't really care about the food, right?
Yeah.
So that's not important to me. Tell me what else, The activities, they are busy. They go on outings. The activities director is amazing. Wow, that's important, right? You also walk into some communities and there's an odor, not a good one.
Yeah.
So that's a very telltale sign. You want to see, even I take tours of these communities all the time, and I'll say, where is everybody?
Yeah.
Now, they should be, if it's an assisted living, they should be either, if they're not on an outing, right, which I'm not saying happens every day, then you should see things going on. To me, when I don't see anybody at
Right.
11 a.m., 2 o'clock, where are they all in their rooms?
Right.
Right?
Not good.
And not to say that they can't be in their rooms, and that's okay, but I would go back a second or third time and get a sense of, again, what's happening in the community? What are the people doing? People look at size of apartments. That could be important. If you're coming from a very large home, you don't want to be put in a little box, a small studio. What's available. There are communities that have very spacious apartments. Some are smaller.
Yep.
What else? Location. Where is it compared to, in other words, is it where all their doctors are? Do you care about that? Is it near other family members? If your mother's moving and or typically the father's moving and the mother's staying at home, is it convenient for her to get there? So these are all things, but also the space, the location, when you walk in, I say to families, I don't know about when we bought our house, like in 5 minutes, I looked at my husband, I took one tour, one walk around. I'm like, I want it, right? I loved it. I felt like this is my space. I think it's the same for when you're going into these communities. Like when you walk in, if you're getting that feel, that whether you're using all your senses, right, to take in what's happening, the environment, the people, observe how the caregivers there are treating and working with the residents.
Yep.
Right? Or if you see screaming matches, which I've seen, and I'm not saying if you see it, you shouldn't go there, but you want to be aware, you want to say, how did the community deal with it? Mm-hmm. It's really, like I said, using all your senses and taking it all in.
So you mentioned earlier before about what you did for someone who couldn't drive any longer. What should a family member do when mom or dad can no longer or should no longer be driving their car? What advice would you give them?
Right. Okay. So we have clients now that are driving that shouldn't be. And we've addressed it to the family. Again, we are not the decision makers. And I tell my team, we're not the daughter or the son either. We're the professional. So we're going to make the recommendations, explain to them why we're making that recommendation. Dad shouldn't drive because we followed him to a doctor's visit and noticed he was going, swaying back and forth and ended up on a curb and then got off the curb. But clearly, this is a sign, right? And we find that the kids feel bad, and we get it because that's their independence. And
Yes.
especially in Florida, we're not living in Manhattan where you're getting on buses and trains and subways and taxis. So yes, it presents a problem, but there are options for these families. And even if they weren't options, I say, do you really want to know that your father's driving when he shouldn't be? I mean, what happens if, God forbid, he hurts himself or somebody else? I don't know about you, but I would not want to be in those shoes. So we presented to the family. There are ways, I mean, you could write an anonymous letter, which a lot of them don't want to the DMV. We find also doctors are very leery of telling their patients that they shouldn't be driving because they don't want them to be mad at them and they don't want to get involved in that piece. And personally, professionally, I have a problem with that because if you're overseeing this person's well-being and health and their reflexes aren't good, they're just cognitively not where they need to be able to drive, and you're just letting that go, personally, I find that to be a huge problem. But anyway, so families need to be aware, and we've gotten stories like, oh, I've watched my father drive and I think he's still okay. But on a side note, I told my children not to drive with him. So, okay, if dad's okay to drive, and these are the stories we get, right? Dad's okay to drive because they don't want to deal with it. And I do get it. We understand that. But we're talking about a safety issue here. So what we do is we go in, we assess, we recommend that our clients have a driving eval. And there are private companies, there are other companies. Florida Atlantic University has a program. And a lot of times, I remember one of my clients, I said, you know what? Your daughter wants you to stop driving. I'm with you. You're independent. You're good. So let's show her. Take the
Right.
class, take the test. She wants you to take this test. Let's show her that, and I knew he wasn't able to, right? Let's show her, you know what he did? He got the keys, he gave it to me, he goes, Shari, because he knew he was going to fail. That's not a typical story, but that did happen.
Happy
Now we
happy
have
ending. Yeah.
happy ending, which is what we're looking for. Another time we pulled the same thing and they're not taking it. So there are ways you could have the car taken away. You could have it stolen by somebody that we know. We've arranged things like this, but we do partner with King Automotive Wholesale, where their wholesaler, which happens to be my husband, and I'm very transparent about it with our clients and their families. They could certainly go somewhere else. But if they're interested, he will go take the car for a spin, give them a number. So we just had a client who the daughter called, the care manager said, Shari's husband does this if you're interested, because the mother has Alzheimer's and she needed to get rid of the car, banged it up a little bit. So she called my husband went out, gave her a number, and she called him back and said, you know what, thank you, but I'm sorry, my family member wants to buy it. And he said, by all means, we're a last resort. If you have a family member, if you want to give it, some of them give it to their caregivers as a gift, some of them give it to grandchildren, it's all good. She called him back the following morning and she said, Tag, you're it. And he said, what happened? And she said, well, King Automotive was giving us 9,000 and my cousin was giving us 1,000 or something like that. So he went with the check, but the point is he took the car, the title, and the keys, took it away from them, and it was a very easy transaction, I should say. And so that's what we bring, for families. And if I've done 10 and 15 years, I've done a lot. So it's just a service that we offer if it makes sense for the family.
Right. Absolutely. Selling a car is a pain in the neck. So I'm happy to have someone just take it away. And usually an older person's car is not typically a newer car. So it doesn't have that tremendous value. So if you're going to get, 9,000 versus 11,000, that's not the issue. The issue is just be done with it. So absolutely.
Exactly.
But
And it's an easy, it's for them. They don't have to bring it anywhere, call them in, we make it easy for them. So it's just, again, a very small service.
so the whole point is that you can give someone a driving assessment, which I don't know if that was a thing for senior citizens, which I maintain everyone should have to take after a certain age. But no politician's going to push for that because senior citizens vote. So that's never going to happen, but it should really it
Right.
should happen. So, but putting that aside, so that's a very interesting scenario. So get an independent party. How about if you think you can drive and I don't think you should be driving, Dad? We get an independent assessor company to sit there and give you a road test, and they'll determine if you're capable of driving in a safe way to protect yourself and everyone else on the road. God forbid you hit
Correct.
another car and hurt a family. We don't want that. So now it's hard to say. I mean, people do say no to that, I'm sure, but it's a little bit harder now. It's to say no to an independent, impartial judge, if you will.
They
But the other,
they still see no, they
they,
they put up a fight because
they
they
put up a,
even they know they're going to fail, but
yeah,
it's their right, their car. I've been driving for 60 years. So
yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah,
You were a good driver then, but now not so much. Things have
yeah.
changed. They don't want to know it. They don't want to
They don't
hear it.
want to know it. Right. The roads are the same. You're not. Yes. Correct, 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 correct. Um, so that's very interesting. So question for you. If I'm talking to I'm in New York, mom's down in Florida. I call her on the phone every night, every other night. I get off the phone, she sounds okay. What signals are there that I may be missing when I say she sounds okay? She's 90. Clearly, she's probably not just okay. There's something going on.
Right.
That may not be serious, but maybe it is. We don't know.
Right. So what we find is when we get calls and families like, oh, what happens is when they come down for that vacation, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the summer, well, they don't come here in the summer. I
No.
don't blame them. But whenever they come down for a long weekend, a week, whatever, and they are like, what happened to my mom? That's
Yeah.
not my father. Because you know what? A phone call, yeah, we went to play cards, we went for dinner, all's good, talk to you next week, click. You're thinking I'm in New York. Okay, they went for dinner, they played cards, sounds right. Then the family comes down. There's moldy bread. She's
Yeah.
wearing a dress that should have been thrown out months ago. There's an odor in the house. Their medications are all over. Like, again, they haven't been here, and that's what I tell families: wear your boots on the ground. We're going in, we're looking at, we're setting up the meds if we have to. We're setting up schedules. And, we had a client who had blood pressure issues. So we set up a log with the caregiver, and she had to post the blood pressure twice a day. We talked to the doctor, she knew the parameters, and she would report to the care manager on a daily basis until we got it right. When I say we, between the medications, right? But so it's holding people accountable, monitoring. How do you do that from when you're in New York, when you have children, grandchildren, a job, all the above, some of it, you're traveling, you have kids in college. It's hard.
Yes.
So that people bring us in for that. But the point is that you think things are good. And, even when we start with the client, 3 months into it, the care manager will walk in and the client has a big gash on his head, and we're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, Stan, what happened? I fell, but don't tell my daughter. Well,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to tell the daughter because we're their eyes and ears. But what you think they're reporting those things to their kids?
Right. No, definitely not.
Right.
Definitely
That they
not.
fell, that they even had a fender bender, that they
Yep.
missed their
Yep.
doctor's appointment. That, I mean, I could write a book on what goes on, and they're
Yeah.
telling the daughter, yeah, everything's good.
Yep. Yep.
Because, you know, the older adult is also, they're scared, they might be in denial. The first thing we get a lot is when we go in that first time for the assessment, the first thing they say is, I hope you're not taking away my car or making me move. And we're like,
Yeah.
of course not. Now, we don't know that, and that might be the goal, and we're not going to do it on day one unless there's a safety issue, right? I had a client once, a doctor called me and said, can you go take this my patient to a dermatologist. She has a terrible rash. She wasn't a client. So I said, I need to talk to the daughter. I need paperwork. We just don't take, she's not a client. So we took care of all that. Great. I went to pick her up. Within 30 seconds, I got the sense there's cognitive deficits here. I took her to the doctor. I got her cream. I take her back into her house, and she looks at me and says, "What should I do now?"
Oh, gosh.
Now, yeah, oh gosh. She was living alone, beautiful woman in a beautiful home. And I said to her, "You know what? You and I are going to figure that out." So I said, "Why don't you sit down? Let me get some water for you." And I opened up the refrigerator, and there's just what I say, moldy bread, a slice of old turkey, like nothing to eat really, coffee in the fridge, sodas. And so I went into the bathroom and I called the door and I said, "Listen, this is what's going on. I'm not leaving. I want to get a caregiver in here. I'll ask the caregiver to bring in, stop off, get something for dinner and something for breakfast. And then I will be back in the morning to start an assessment." And I did. And, got her to a neurologist, got a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, put in an aide round the clock, got a social calendar going. She was isolated. But here, there's a situation where the daughter thought, "Mom's doing well. She's gone to the doctor herself. She had a rash, no big deal." But here, I walk in and she says, "What should I do now?" Again, not leaving her, and
Right.
had the case for years until they moved her up north.
Right. Frightening. And there's so much of that. There's so much of that. We just don't know. We're just up here minding our own business. We think we're being good kids, calling our parents down there. We are being good kids, calling our parents on a regular basis and so on.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. And you know
but it's
what?
not
A
enough.
lot of a lot of times, Larry, they are doing well until they're not. Until
Exactly.
they're not. So,
Exactly.
and you don't know when that not is happening, right? Because
Yeah.
again, you're calling
Yeah.
that once, twice a week.
Yeah.
Mom sounded good, They're very good actors, these older
Oh, it's
adults.
amazing. They don't want to give up their independence, and they don't want their kids to. That, giving up their independence is one thing, but you're giving it up to your child, and that makes it even worse, right? If my
Right. And they
husband is going to take care of me or my kids, my wife's going to take care of me because I can't do it's one thing, but if my son or daughter's going to take care of me because I can't do, that's much worse. And like a
correct.
husband's supposed to take care of a wife and vice versa, and but the kids aren't supposed to have to take care of me, but they really do. It's not an American culture thing. It really seems not to
It's
be.
not. It's not
Yeah,
our culture at all.
yeah,
At all. Other cultures, they move in with them. You talk to these families and say, you know,
yep.
they have limited resources. You might have to move them in. Well, that's not happening. I'm like,
Well,
okay, well, let's think about what the options are then.
well, I've
So,
had it where my in-laws moved in a house with us, and for 30 years, and then I had my kids move into our house, and we moved into the apartment. So now my daughter and son were living with my wife and me in the apartment, and they're up there with their families and my three grandchildren. It's a fourth generation living in my same house.
I love it. It's
So yeah, but
beautiful.
it's not the way it's done. But it's wonderful.
Right.
This is my outreach
Beautiful.
to the younger generation. There's something great if the family dynamics work. That's the key. The family dynamics have to work. It's not for everybody. So I will
Right.
say it's wonderful when it's wonderful, like you said about the seniors. They're great until they're not. Right? They're the same thing. This is wonderful, except when it's not. So
Right.
but anyway, it's very interesting. You get very personal, and you mentioned earlier in the podcast how you were following one of your clients driving their car, so you can assess how they're driving. I've never had anyone doing that. Talk about service and really keeping an eye on your client. That's an awesome thing to do, and it gives you
Yeah.
real information to go back with. Not that you're
Right.
90, I see you're shaking, you're this, you're that, you're not walking steady, you're probably not a good driver. No, you're not a good driver because you're swaying and going up on the curb. You're not a good driver.
Right.
Very,
Exactly.
very different. So
Correct.
that I've never had anybody do that, but that's fantastic. That is fantastic. But I've been asking you a bunch of questions. Anything you want to chime in before I ask you another couple of questions? Because you were talking
I
about the
just want to
different
say
things you
that,
do. Go ahead.
right. I just want to tell families who are listening, children who have
Right.
older, parents down here, grandparents, a great aunt, don't, people call us so late in the game. I mean, I get calls, people literally, grown men crying. crying to me, saying, my mother's in the hospital. I mean, not his fault, right? She had something happen, she fell, and he couldn't get down here, got our name from whoever. And, we jumped in literally that day, got to the hospital, got the records, advocated for, was able to report back to him. But I just find people wait too long to bring us on. So we could make things so much better, not only for our clients, but for you as the child living in New York who wants to know that mom and dad are safe, and there's a safety net here that if God forbid there's an emergency, we could step in until you get here.
Right.
And I think that's really important for people to understand and know.
Yes, absolutely. This, I mentioned before about a common theme amongst the podcast guests, and that is it's waiting to the last minute. And it's in every walk, whether it's estate planning, writing wills, writing trusts, whether it's dealing with taking the keys away from mom or dad, whether it's deciding that they should move to, it's time to leave home. It's always the last minute. They coming out of a hospital, they can't possibly go back home. We need to find a facility in the next 24 hours. But
Right.
that's the way we tend to live our lives in every aspect, and especially dealing with our folks. So, and it doesn't matter what guest I'm talking to. If I ask them about the takeaways, that's probably the most common takeaway. Do it today. Whatever it is we're talking about during that podcast, do it today. Don't wait till tomorrow. And that's what you're saying. Don't leave mom and dad down
Yeah.
here alone.
Right. I always say be proactive, not reactive. And you know what? We moved some of our clients up north. We would say to chill, it doesn't always make sense, but sometimes I would say to this family in particular, I said, what is your mother doing here? You're all in one city, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, very cohesive, close-knit family.
Yep, yep.
Her husband passed away, and they just thought she would live out the rest of the years here. And
Right.
I said to them, did you ever consider moving mom up north? And they looked at me like I was crazy. And actually, one of the sons said to me, but then she wouldn't be a client. I said, but you hired us to help you understand, navigate, and make recommendations for what we as professionals think would be best for mom. And I'm saying, I think it would be, mom is lonely down here. Even though she's busy, she played bridge. She was an artist. She lived in a very high-end community, very busy, active. Just because you're active and busy doesn't mean you're happy. And she was still lonely. And we moved her like 4 months later. They said, bring it to the table. I'm like, okay. And she even said, I never thought of it. Like, I just thought I'd live the rest of my years down here. And she did. She moved up north and into another community up there near her kids. And they had weekends and holidays. The grandchildren would sleep over. She would go out to them. I mean, it was really amazing. So we do that also. We help make that move.
You said something very interesting, but then she wouldn't be a client of yours. And no many people call me to buy their house, and I tell them I don't want to buy your house because you're better off doing X, Y, and Z. I say, why would you tell me that? It's my job is to give you good advice. I make my living buying houses, but my job is to give good advice. In your case, your job is to protect your client and give them the best possible life they can have. And that's the best possible life. It's not about my job is to make me the most money. That's not your job. Your job is about the client. And yeah, good
Correct.
business
It's
people
all-
work that way. It comes
Right.
back in spades.
Yeah. I always said to my husband, when I put the business before the person, tell me to get out. In other words, I said it before, I take this is somebody's loved one, their parent, their grandparent. It's a human life. I mean, I don't know how much more you could get, right? So, yeah, we do what's right. Again, we make those recommendations. Real quick, I remember I had one of my care managers wrote on this care plan that she believes the father should stay home, and she wrote up, everything that he would need to stay home, the caregiver, the this, the that. And the second plan was to move him to a community, which was not her recommendation for this particular client, but it was an option. And the daughter went with plan B, and my care manager called me up crying. And I said to her, I'm not going to use her name, I'll say Susie, because that's my person. I said, Susie, this is not your father. You did the right, they hired us as professionals to give them a plan of options and solutions to the problem at hand. And you did that. And that's what they were asking from you. If it was your father and you would have picked plan A, fine, but it's not. And so, she took a few breaths and she said, you were right. But we do. We get very invested in our clients, and we try to, again, we're not the decision maker. So we are
Right.
the professional, and we give them the options.
Right. Right. Absolutely. That's exactly that's your role. I said, I was a financial advisor. I'm the advisor. I'm not the decision maker. And I'm dealing directly with the client, and that's the way it works. So, yes, we can't call the shots. We can just advise on the shots. And again,
Right.
we're professionals. It's in our wheelhouse. So when we advise you, we think that's the best thing for you. And you're probably better off taking our advice because this is what we do every day. And that's what I tell people all the time. So, question, are the things we miss, because we can talk for another hour without batting an eye, I'm sure we can. Are the things you'd like to cover that we haven't covered? Because we may get back on together again, because I think we can go on and
Okay.
on.
You
Anything?
know what? There's so much to this, and
Yep.
I don't want to overstay my welcome.
Yep. There you
Um,
go.
I would just say that, again, pay attention to what's going on. Try not to be in denial. It's hard. As a loved one, it is hard to go in with the blank piece of paper, as I say, and say, you know what? Mom isn't doing as well as I thought. Or did you notice Dad was very repetitive? He's never done that before. Or they're holding on to walls to get to their chair. So, just observing while you're there, while you're visiting. And look, if they're doing well and they're playing golf or doing whatever their life was, maybe they're doing well. And kudos, I hope that's the case. But if not, I'm just saying pay attention. And again, if it's not senior options, it's not a care manager, somebody has to advocate for them.
Right.
And don't wait. That's my takeaway. Pay attention to the signs and don't wait. Be proactive.
Very well said. Very well said. I said the most common takeaway. Do it today. Don't wait. Be proactive. I live a life too often of reactivity, and it's just not a good way to live. It creates stress, and you don't get the outcomes you would have gotten if you're proactive. So, and how here we're dealing with the quality of life of your parents. So, for sure, I have 15 more questions I can ask you here, but we're gonna end it here. So, question: how do people get hold of you?
Okay, so first and foremost, you could call us at 561-464-2656.
Hmm.
You could email to me, Shari, Shari, at senioroptionsfl.com.
Senior Options FL for Florida, perfect.com, easy to remember. That's awesome. Do you have a website?
We do. Please check us out at senioroptionsfl.com.
Funny the way I said that. I know you have a website. I was on it. So anyway, seemed like the way to phrase that, but I've never phrased it that way in any other podcast. So anyway, Shari, it was a real pleasure having you here. And as a result of being in Florida, you now have broken our need to have our guests in person. I happen to like it when they're in person. I think it's different, but it opens up a much greater universe to us as long as there's a New York connection. This really is about New Yorkers and senior citizens all into one podcast. And as we said at the beginning, there's a New York connection to you and to Florida. So I thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry. I really appreciate it. And if anybody just wants to ask me a question, please call me. It's fine. I really just want to help. It's a difficult web to navigate down here.
Yeah, but it's not so easy up here either. So,
I know.
well, thank you very
Little
much.
broken. Okay, be well, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. If you've enjoyed this episode or found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast. We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you are going through. So if you are considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out to see how we can help. When working with us, you can sell your home in its current condition, there is no need to remove unwanted items, and you control when the house is sold, along with so many other advantages. Visit leavethekey.com or call us at 631-388-7771 to learn more about our senior home buying process.